Hello everybody, buongiorno a tutti. I'm Jarrod Cagwin. I'm here in the middle of Sardinia on a sweltering Sunday afternoon in Sardinia in a town called Nuoro, in the studio of my colleague and very good friend Gavino Murgia. And I've been here for about 10 days. We've been playing some shows in this incredible heat. I don't know where you all are coming from, but in Europe this summer it's been incredible. Unless you're a scientist down in Antarctica, I mean, I think we all have been dealing with a lot of heat this summer. So I'm kind of in the confines of the studio here, and it's the only cool place. It's like the cold shelter here, because if I go outside, it's about 1,000 degrees Kelvin. It's like walking on the sun here because we're up in the mountains. So it's a Sunday afternoon. Tomorrow I go back to Spain, to my home in Sitges on the beach, which will be like walking into a steam room. And so I have a little bit of time off today, and I didn't bring my filming equipment and microphone, so everything is coming through my phone. I just wanted to share a few things about some kind of rare instruments. Some instruments that you wouldn't find in a lot of places. And I'll kind of go through them one at a time, the drums that we have. And I'll start with one that, this is a drum. It's called a Tumbarino. You can see it's double-sided with natural skins. I believe these are goat skins. And, you know, traditionally, you would sling it across your body and you play it down here with a couple small sticks. I kind of use this drum in a different way, and mostly for studio things. These drums are they're all handmade and a little bit, you don't want to be traveling around with them. So, you know, typically you're going to be playing it with a stick, and, you know, I can just give it a tap here. So forth. It has a very, very beautiful tone, perfectly intonation with each other. Now, I use this drum very often in the studio, almost like I'm playing a dombak or a zarb or something in that way. I get a really nice warm tone. So that's one way to do it, and it's kind of very, very warm, and you can mix this very well in different situations. Now, the other thing that I do, and on the wall behind me here, there's about 3 or 4 of them, and they all have a little bit of a different sound. So I'm only going to use one snare drum stand here now for the moment. I very often, I'm going to put it down and kind of play almost in a classical way with the drum, and I'll use like a kind of a hard felt mallet here. It's not too soft, it's not too hard, so I can get a lot of different sort of articulative sounds here. Now, if you can imagine that with like 3 or 4 of them together and with microphones together in a little bit different pitches, I mean, it can make it sounds massively, the way you mix it, of course, like massive drums. And this is a great thing to have. Also, a company, Accra drums, they're also making similar things like this. I think the most important thing is it's kind of like an aged skin. And I'm going to be using this drum through a lot of my demonstrations on different things today, so I'm going to kind of keep it here. I also pass along I guess, a link here from a few years ago when I was here playing all four of them together at once, just for some other thing to look at. So now I will move on to the next drum. So the next drum I have here, it comes from Ghana. It comes from Accra, the Ga people from Accra. And I had this made also 20 years ago out there in Accra. It's very, very, very crudely made. If you can see this, the tuning mechanism is like this bolt and screw and clamp system here. Everything, it's been in storage for 20 years. I never played it until now, in fact. So we're not talking about a high level of technology here that went into making this drum. It's got natural skins on them, on both sides, that are coated so that it has a little bit more strength and, in fact, a more mellow sound. Traditionally, they're going to play it either holding it in their hand. They have very large rims, or they might even hold them like this, and they're going to play with a stick. And there'll be like at least two players playing opposite patterns. And I'm not going to play something like that, but you'll have so forth, back and forth, and it'll be with an ensemble. The reason why I got this drum, you could compare it to something like a soprano snare drum, like a 10-inch kind of snare drum. However, I kind of tried that with different drums, and they all came out sounding too perfect in a certain way. I kind of like this drum because it's very, very raw. And I will play it as I played last night. I put it on a kind of hybrid drum set in front of my snare drum. So it's not really like a tom-tom, and it's not really like a snare drum with the snares off either. And I can do a lot of things very African oriented, almost like I'm playing a sogo drum with sticks. And I'll just use these kind of hard mallets again in combination with Sardinian here, sorry. And they're kind of like certain cousins here. And I'll kind of just play through it. I can do a lot of articulation things, whether if I play traditional grip or match, but yeah, so I can really kind of play aggressive with it and, a little bit more cleaner than I just played there. But, I can also hold it and you get this really kind of funky sound. It's different on the other side. It has this kind of like wang, wang, wang. And I kind of like that from time to time. So I guess the point being, it's a very imperfect kind of drum from the construction sort of point of view, but such a character in this little drum. And I'm so glad I got it out of the storage for the first time in 20 years. And I'm waiting for my colleague, Dr. Webb, to actually inform me what the actual name of this is, because there is a name. And unfortunately, after 20 years, I can't seem to remember what it is. Anyway, so moving on. In this example, I'll be talking about, it's not really a drum. In fact, it's a drum head, a drum skin for a Japanese drum, and forgive me if I pronounce it wrong, Kotsuzumi. It's one of those kind of hourglass shaped drums, and this would be a very big one, in fact, where they kind of bend it and change pitch with it. That's why you have the holes. If you can see through it, there's a bunch of this where the rope tuning rings would come. Now, I got this in Japan several years ago, and the reason I got it wasn't to play that kind of drum. In fact, it's a very, very, it's a kind of like taiko drum. It's very, very tight skin, and I use it mostly in a sort of kind of like shamanic way. So it has a really nice tone, and I hope it comes through here on the phone. So when you're working like with doing film scoring or different sort of soundscapes, this is not a drum that I would play with my fingers necessarily. It's something that I would use with this combination of this Sardinian kind of drum with a Japanese drum in a sort of meditative way or you know, shamanic way. The other thing that I like about this drum is I can get an effect. You know, sometimes I actually I'll string it up, you know, on a rack or something so it's suspended by one. So I can turn it, which creates this really nice oscillating effect. And when you use this with, you know, great microphones in the right place, it's a really interesting effect. And I really hope that comes through with the telephone. So that's kind of like something that's not a normal conception about how you use a drum skin, a drum head that's not even mounted on a drum. And I kind of wanted to share that. So now moving on. So next, what we have here is a drum that's made for me a very long time ago by Norbert Eckermann from Eckermann Drums. And this was specifically designed for me to be used mounted on a drum set. But the effect of the drum is like what you would find in the Middle East, specifically Syria and old Iraq and those kind of areas. It's a drum that they would just call tabl, which is very generic. It just means a drum. But the important thing about this, normally this drum would be double skinned. And they would play it with one big stick here and, you know, a thin stick up here. Boom, check, sort of thing. I had it designed for the purposes of mounting on a drum set. And maybe I can find a photo from the days when I used to do that. So we got a tuning system here, all peg oriented. So I can tune it up and down by twisting. It's the old school method. Got a wooden rim here, so there's no metal at all whatsoever in the drum. Everything is made from wood except for the skin. Now the skin is double layered. There's a muting, overtone muting ring made from skin as well that I had also designed with some artwork by a friend of mine, Colin Robertson. Now the purpose of this drum is it's got a lot of very, very deep bass. And I keep it now mostly in the studio here for recording it, really low dynamic, in fact. And so you have an effect of having some attack with really low bass and tone. course, depending on what kind of mallet I would use, different sorts of attack. Now it's very soft. So, you know, when I play it with mounted on my set, I can also play. It's very, very strong. I can really play it hard with sticks. I'll try to mount it, put it on my legs here. So you have this really thunderous effect, and it's not double-sided, so it's really controllable with the sound. That's something that's made by Ackerman drums in Vienna. In this example, I'm going to talk about this drum. This is a drum from Morocco. It's a Moroccan, a kind of oversized Moroccan Bendir. And you know, this is a kind of a rare one. It's almost like a combination of a mazhar and a bendir. It has these really crude, clangy jingles here. I've had this drum since 2001. So 21 years I've had this. And mostly it's been in storage as well. I only play it in studio situations, so I keep it here. Now you can see, I hope you can see. So for those who don't know, the thing about Moroccan bendirs is they have these snares across them, and these are you know, that can be made from gut string or nylon string. These are nylon string, and so the skin kind of goes all the way across it. And I got this in Marrakech. Yeah, 21 years ago in the Medina, in the souk, really deep down there in this music shop. In one of those kind of places like Indiana Jones, where you turn one corner and then you're lost for like 3 hours because you can't find your way out. And that was back in the time before cell phones and GPS and all that. I don't know if that would even make a difference these days down there. So this drum, it's a raw instrument. It's a very desert-like instrument, and it's not one that I really hit too hard. I use it often with a very close microphone, which you won't probably get the effect of that from the phone here. So I'll play a little bit. So you can hear it has this distortion quality. Some people don't like that, and you know, it depends on what kind of context you're playing it in. So I'll just play a little bit about the drum so you can hear it. It's pretty much a one of a kind. I've never seen anything quite like this in all the times I've been to Morocco. I'm sure there is ones, I just haven't come across it. So it's kind of an antique for me. You know, the harder I hit it, the more the jingles come out. So I'm going to try to play it a little dynamically. so it's kind of it's a difficult one to control. That's why I don't use it very often, and really it's only for studio. It's kind of a very old monster. But I like it, and yeah, there you go on that one. And so finally for today, I got to show this because I think this is just the most incredible thing. My friend Gavino, you know, I've been playing with him for 20 years. He's one of the most creative and musical guys that I know, and he's a saxophone player, woodwind player, and he's a Sardinian throat singer. But he loves percussion, and he loves inventing those things. So I got to show you this. This is just incredible. So what we got here, he made this himself, is a chime bar full of keys. Now, this is cool, so cool that I gotta have a few of these made for myself. You know, I was never a really big wind chime fan. You know, the standard wind chimes that you would you know, get in a from a regular shop or something. I really like these things, so I'm gonna have some different ones made myself. Anyway, I hope you somehow enjoyed this kind of candid, raw video here, and I hope everybody stays cool. Summer's still not over yet here, and well, we'll see what happens. You know, hopefully next year something that changes and it cools off. And I wish everybody a nice Sunday, and I wish everybody well. Bye-bye now. Arrivederci.